Thanks, David. As you indicated, I'm the CEO of Northern Tiger, and I'll give everybody a quick intro to our company. We are a Yukon-focused company. We've got a very exciting new high-grade gold discovery at 3 in the southeast Yukon. We're spending about $6 million on exploration this year. Recently optioned an adjoining property called Sprog from Newmont and Alexco, hosts its own large gold anomaly. We're also drilling at Sonora Gulch in the central Yukon, where we put in 9 holes or 2,600 meters. We have a strategic alliance with a producer, Capstone Mining Corp, and we have a fully funded 2011 exploration program. Talk a bit about the new Yukon gold rush, as you can see from the top chart there, which is exploration expenditures. The Yukon's really exploded in the last few years. 10 years ago, there was significantly less than $10 million a year being spent in the Yukon. Went up to about 160 million last year, and I think expectations are it will be about 300 million this year. So that's led to a couple of things, a lot of investor interest in the Yukon for sure, and it's also led to some troubles, and particularly with lab turnaround times, which has caused a lot of Yukon plays to be beaten up quite a bit in the last, particularly in the last 6 weeks or so, as the markets got shaky and people start to assume that the lack of news from the Yukon is people sitting on bad drill holes, but I think in most cases that's probably not the case. So the new Yukon Gold Rush, really led by 3 companies, started with Adrian Fleming's company Underworld, who spoke earlier. That was taken out by Kinross, and then more recently both Kaminak and Attack have made significant new discoveries, had very large market caps attached to those discoveries, and I think the market is in general willing to reward Yukon explorers quite well for some good exploration results, although it's been a little shaky in the last little bit. Second chart shows something else we like about the Yukon. Not only can you find new things there, you can put them into development as well. So there's been 3 companies in the last 4 or 5 years that have been able to really move rapidly through the permitting and construction phases to get into production. Starting with the first blip there, and that's our strategic alliance partners, Capstone's development expenditures, and then more recently Alexco and Yukon Zinc have gone into production. Our management team, I'm a CA, the other 4 members of our board are all professional geologists. We have a strong technical team, extensive experience working in the Yukon and northern Canada, from Laurie Walton, who's lived in Whitehorse for 17 years, to down to Dennis Ouellette, our VPX, has lived and worked in the Yukon for 30 years. So we think we're well positioned to take advantage of all the action up there. And I'll also point out Liard McMillan. He's an advisor to our board, and he's the chief of the Liard First Nation, which is where our 3A's property is. We have 98 million shares out, 108 fully diluted. Our biggest supporters have been a small group of pros from Haywood here in Vancouver, who probably hold in the neighborhood of 15% of our shares. And our other biggest shareholders include Sprott with about 5%, and Trellis Funds from New York with 5%. Location of our major projects, Sonora Gulch in the central Yukon and Sprog and 3 in the southeast. I'll spend most of my time talking about Sprog and 3 as they were the big focus of our programs this year. A couple of pictures. The top picture shows our small exploration camp from last year. Also give you a bit of an idea how fast this has come along, I guess. And the thing to note in that picture is that there's a road down in the valley, so by Yukon standards we're quite blessed to have an all-weather road that just travels right through the length of our property pretty well. Second picture shows prospector Alex McMillan. He's the First Nations gentleman we optioned the property from, and the outcrop he's standing by has returned actually the highest bedrock grade assays that we've ever seen in the Yukon, or that's ever been reported in the Yukon, I should say. And I'll also point out that Mr. McMillan is the father of the chief of the local First Nations, so we've got a pretty good foot in the door as far as First Nations relations go. This is a grab sample from that bedrock. So the main zone is what we called where that outcrop is, and we put 3 holes in there last year at the end of season. We were so impressed with with our first pass exploration program at it last year that we did mount a late season drill program. Drilled 30 meters of 4.3 grams in our first hole, so very encouraging, and then a meter of 145 grams in our second hole. We just reported our first assays back from this year, much later than we thought we'd be reporting, and I guess demonstrating the fact that we aren't sitting on a whole bunch of bad holes. We basically have 4 holes back, and we reported them this morning. We were actually pretty pleased with the results from a project perspective, although the market was less so. Basically, we extended down dip by hitting 13 meters at 3.8 grams, and along strike about 160 meters from that outcrop with 7 meters of 5 grams. And this just shows where the drill traces are. I guess one good thing to note is hole 14 right up at the top kind of goes off our close space soil grid, so we're still getting good intercepts even when we're past kind of where the soils are really super hot there. And this map really shows kind of why we're particularly excited. So the holes we've drilled so far have basically been in 2 small zones. The main zone down at the bottom of the map, and then in Sleeping Giant zone we also drilled 6 holes last year. But what our surface exploration has showed us is widespread high-grade gold over an area of about 4 square kilometers. So it's kind of hard to make out the numbers, or at least from my point it is. But we're seeing from 66 gram samples up in Green Zone East, 82 gram samples in Sleeping Giant Zone, 90 gram chip sample in the North Zone, kind of in the center of the map there. 9 gram soil sample out to the northwest of Main Zone, 9 gram sample, 23 gram sample, 6 gram chip sample. So essentially, our surface work has shown us a lot of gold over a pretty extensive area at 3ACE. This year we're concentrating our drilling on the Main Zone and on the big anomaly up at the north end called Green Zone West. Green Zone West is one of our focuses for a fairly obvious reason, I guess. Its size, it's about 1,000 meter by 500 meter anomaly, had over 300 soils, averaging 115 ppb, and it's supported by a bunch of rock samples that have been in excess of a gram as well, and that's why it's one of our primary drill targets for 2011. Sleeping Giant was one we drilled last year, had a big surface expression as well, 300 meters by 25 meters, some good grab samples and chip samples, and last year 5 of our 6 holes hit mineralized gold intercepts, including 12 meters of 1.5 grams. This just gives an idea, I guess, of some of the other targets that are emerging, so it's still pretty early days for this. We just acquired it in April of 2010, but we're finding a lot of drill targets that are starting to develop quite quickly. The other thing that we like is not just the 4 square kilometers we've looked at, but we have a 225 square kilometer land package. Surface work to date this year includes finding an additional 9 mineralized occurrences on 3ACE itself, on Sprog, which we acquired from Newmont and Alexco, which is kind of the little block in the southeast corner. We found a new 3 kilometer mineralized trend there as well. And then finally, this map actually shows the results of our silt survey. So having just looked at a small portion, part of our broader reconnaissance program this year was to do silts over the property. And what we found was that 12 drainages outside of the core areas that we were aware of at Sprog and 3ACE have returned significantly anomalous gold in silts as well. So the whole property package is starting to look quite prospective. We've got a $6 million exploration program, which will be winding up in the next couple of weeks here. Drilling focused on Main Zone and Green Zone West, extensive surface exploration, and results are pending for 18 additional holes. 2 rigs are still turning. This shows Sonora Gulch, our program our properties in the central Yukon. This is kind of more the heart of the new Yukon gold rush, where you've got number 1 is Underworld Resources taken out by Kinross. Number 2 is Kaminak's project. Number 3 is Western Copper's billion-ton Casino copper gold porphyry. Number 4 is a 1 million ounce resource of Northern Freegold. Number 5 is Western Copper's Carmack's project, a smaller, higher grade copper project, and then the mining symbol is the Minto mine. The Bond, Dad, Mel, Del, and Lead properties kind of along the curve of the Yukon River are the 5 that we acquired from Capstone when we formed Northern Tiger, and they're prospective for high-grade copper Minto style mineralization. But Sonora Gulch, right in the middle of the map, is our principal property in this district. So we spent about $1 million and drilled 9 holes at Sonora Gulch. It's a large porphyry system. We've outlined a 9 square kilometer gold and soil anomaly, so a big system with lots of gold circulating. This year we focused particularly on the gold vein system to the south, where last year we hit 6 meters at 7.5 grams, plus about 5 ounces of silver as well. So we've got 9 holes into that gold vein system, and the results from those are pending. As we said, we've got an exploration alliance with Capstone Mining, particularly related to our copper Minto style projects in the central Yukon. And that's it. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, we'll be out at our booth during the break, and we'd be happy to talk to you.